Can you see the slide?
Yeah, looks good.
Perfect. So for those who are new to these meetups, and I use a group, we are serverless Toronto community, and we did start as a regular function as a service developers a while back, February 2018. But we fell in love with serverless computing when Amazon Lambda came up, when we discovered that. And before we knew it, we started meshing with other teams and enjoying building products faster. So we started defining serverless as a new agile and the mindset. So if you wonder what serverless mindset is before I say so, I would point you out to the old talk from another O'Reilly author, Sam Newman, who criticized us developers that we're focusing too much on the tech tools, not the things that tech tools let you do. And if you use the same, can you hear me? If you use the same analogy with a car mechanic, it would be like your car mechanic who is enjoying pimping his car in the garage, like we are building infrastructure, code, data pipelines, instead of letting the car drive business forward. And one of the best definitions of serverless mindset, serverless is not a direction, it's destination. And it's about avoiding dogma. So it's about the choice, it's about how you make decisions, not what choices are. And then I also pointed to the video from the Simon Wardley, who defined Wardley mapping. So it's bookmarked here. You'll share it with you so you can see more precisely what we're trying to avoid, dogmatic corporations. And if you wonder why we have DataPlatform, so I'm a small consultant, I subcontract for bigger professional services organizations, and there are the projects and the clients when I didn't see anti-patterns. So I was really happy when I saw this book. It's really very timely. So there are 3 reasons I love this book, and I read only the draft. So the book is still not ready, and thank you, Marco, for giving 30-day access to everybody who is on this call. So first, it's a future-proof. It addresses the elephant in the room. It's this rapid arrival of generative AI, which is a good thing because it's going to motivate companies to act. Second thing, reason I like it, it will guide data leaders about things they should be doing, and more importantly, shouldn't be doing. And I like it as a practitioner because I'm going to get my Bible and carry it around while I'm preaching data modernization. So, and the third reason why you're going to like this book, it's vendor agnostic. So you're going to see how your knowledge is portable across clouds, and like that's why I use this image of the prism. Regardless of the cloud colors you have right now, the problems book authors are discussing are the same, universal. So it will help you even with the job search too. You see how easy jump from one cloud to another. Azure, here I come next. And if you can please mute yourself. And then before I give the, if you can please mute yourself. I don't know how to mute everyone. So
I'll send me a copy of my responses.
Yeah, I think you have to do it, Daniel, because you're the host.
I don't know how to do that, but I'm finishing the presentation. I'll mute everybody. So please monitor. Let's see if I know how to do that. I'm totally new to Zoom, so I don't know how to mute it. So
yeah, just open up the participants panel, and then you can see which ones are unmuted, and you can, I think you can right click.
That's you. Okay, they're quiet now. Suda is a guest. He was okay. So before, for those of you who came the first time to visit us, please monitor the group. We don't have anything scheduled right now. We took the summer off, and this talk came out of the things I've seen at work and the solution we found. So if you experience any frustration, please come to us, but come up with the problems, not just complaints. And we're gonna pencil you for the upcoming call to make this community better and share the knowledge around. And please rate this meetup, meetup.com, so you attract more nice folks like you. And now we are back to a feature presentation. So Marco, Firat, and luck. Thank you for visiting. So please take it away. I'm stopping sharing.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Just a second. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, super, fantastic. So thank you so much, first of all, for having invited me and Firat to this session. I'm super honored to be here. So let's spend just a very few seconds just to introduce ourselves. So I'm Marco. I'm an engineer. My background is in computer engineering. I spent the last 12 years working in a cloud environment, and the majority of that years have been spent in dealing with data. So in data project with different kind of customer, and I had the opportunity to work with several customers in different industries and in different level of maturity. So I put all my experience within this book, or together with my colleagues, and I hope that the result is great. Firat, I don't know if you want to present yourself.
Hi, so I'm Firat, like Marco. In fact, my real background is in, machine learning. My PhD is in, reinforcement learning, but no one wanted to pay my skills 20 years ago, right? So AI wasn't what it was, what it is now. So I became very good at, working with data. So I moved into data analytics. Along the way, I worked with, some of the largest, organizations, building and architecting their, data and, AI ecosystems within the past, nearly 17, 18 years, right? Very large, enterprises. So, and now everyone again wants to do ML. For me, it's always hand to hand, right? So without data, your machine learning algorithms are never going to work, right? There's even a famous Harvard Business Review article back in 2017, in fact, right? So it argues that if you are not good at data analytics, you are not going to be good at, AI. It is absolutely correct, right? So, and that's one of the things that we are trying to target in this book, how you can architect a data and ML platform with everything involved and end to end, right? And what is also happening these days is that biggest consumer of the data is also becoming the ML platforms on the other end. So without data, your ML is not going to work, and your without ML, your data will not find a consumer, right? The world that we are going to live in the short period of time. This is my personal opinion, of course, right? But let's see, in the presentation, some of the things that we can provide you.
Okay, thank you so much, Firat. So first of all, we would like to give you some sort of sense of why we wrote this kind of book and what you will find within the book. So this book is basically some sort of a guide for all the modern approaches that you can follow when you are architecting, when you are building a data platform based on cloud technology. As Firat said, one of the most important things within a company is the data, and it's extremely important to have a platform that enable all different kind of users to get the benefit from the data that they have, to get access to the data, to extract wisdom from their data, and to enable data scientists and users to implement machine learning algorithm on top of it. As we already highlighted before, if you don't have a strong control of your data and a good knowledge of your data, it will be extremely challenging to implement machine learning and to develop new ways to boost the business of your organization. So the goal of this book is basically to go through the entire data lifecycle, as we will see in a minute, and for different kinds of users, describe what are the main decisions that organizational data stakeholders, data leaders should take in order to build a data platform that enable the company to get the most from their data and to get access to their to the wisdom, basically. The basic foundation of the basic idea behind of this book is, of course, that cloud native technologies are a good enabler for this new modern data, to build basically a data platform that allow any kind of user within organization to get the most from the data and to extract useful information for their daily job. An important point that I would like to highlight is that when we wrote this book, we decided to take an agnostic approach, as Daniel highlighted before. So within this book, you will find a reference to all the three major cloud providers: AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. And parallel to that, you will see even several references to multi-cloud technologies like Snowflakes that you can deploy basically in any cloud provider that you want, or Databricks. So it's not a book focused on a specific cloud technology, but it's a book that gives you all the foundation to build your next data platform wherever you want, leveraging one single cloud, leveraging multiple cloud providers at the same time, and even leveraging hybrid architecture, where you have part of your workload running in the cloud and part of your workload running, for example, in an on-premise environment, because you have some strict regulation to comply with, or because you have to leverage, for example, some specific hardware that maybe you have just in your data center. Who are the targets of this book? Basically, any kind of data user within the organization. First of all, this book is a very good one for cloud architects, for people who have to build maybe from scratch the data platform, or they need to improve the data platform that they are currently using. So they can read all the different chapters to get more insights about how to deal with their data warehouse, how to improve their data lake, how to basically evolve this kind of architecture in one converged one named the Lakehouse, or if they want to enable streaming, or if they want to expand the boundary of their data platform from cloud until to the edge. So we are covering basically the entire end-to-end journey. But this book is even useful for data engineers, because we are giving a lot of advice on how to extract and transform the data before landing it into the data lake or the data warehouse, or even for data scientists, because we are sharing a lot of experience based on the different projects that we have been involved in the past in building machine learning platform, and in designing all the different building blocks that are needed in order to enable an organization to start crafting some machine learning algorithm, developing everything from scratch within the company, or simply by purchasing some offers, some solutions that are already available to the market and ready to use. Last but not least, we decided to write this book because there are a lot of different, let's say, other books that are talking about this kind of topic, but we didn't find any comprehensive story about that in one single place. So this is the main motivation that brought us to share our experience and to craft this book. So, as I said before, the book is covering the entire data life cycle of the data, from the collection of the data up to its activation. What does it mean? It means that in every single chapter, you will see a story around the data, around how to collect it, around how to store it in a database, in a data warehouse, in a cloud data lake, and altogether with all the different technologies that you can leverage, all the different patterns, especially, you can leverage in order to do that. And then you will see a lot of different information. You will get a lot of different information on how to process the data, how to do it in batch, how to do it in real time, how to do it completely in the cloud, or if you need to store it, for example, as we said before, for compliance regulation, for compliance limitation, you have to do it part in the cloud and part on-prem. And then you will see a lot of different solutions to analyze it, visualize it, implement on top of that machine learning algorithm. So you will learn a lot of solutions that allow you to make your data speak. Super important is that throughout this entire data lifecycle, you will see that there could be a lot of different users who can interact with the data. That could be data engineers, data analysts, business users, developers. And throughout the book, you will see a lot of different use cases, a lot of different stories on how the different user, how the different personas within the book will be able to get the most of your data, will be able to interact with the data. And you will really see the value of the data democratization thanks to this kind of platform. I know that it could sound a little bit, let's say, a buzzword, because you are hearing that a lot of time and you are reading that everywhere, but it's really the truth. With this cloud native data platform, you are basically giving access to the data to a huge plethora of users within the company. You are not anymore centralizing everything in a single place where only the IT department can upload the data, transform the data, and give access to the data to the different people. You are moving from that kind of environment to an environment where every people within the company with its skill can get the most from the data, can read the data, can analyze the data, and can basically work in order to find the different kind of correlation, different kinds of information, and help the business make the correct decision to boost the overall business. Parallel to the entire data lifecycle, what is extremely important is the security and the governance and the security part. The cloud environment enable this kind of data platform to be a platform where all the different elements that you need to consider in order to govern the data, in order to make the data secured, can be controlled in every single step of the data lifecycle in a single way. You leveraging, for example, the identity and access management tools of the cloud platform, and leveraging a lot of different tools that allow people to focus just on the data that they want, that allow people to search for other data within the company, and basically get access to the data in a secure way based on well-defined security rules that have been defined by the security team of your organization. So this is extremely important, and this is one of the main, let's say, plus of having a data analytics platform running on a cloud environment. We are basically, we decided to craft all the different messages starting from some sort of ideal journey that a cloud architect should make in order to implement that data analytic platform. So we decided to identify what we call the 7 strategic steps to innovate with data. So we designed this kind of pyramid with 7 different steps. At the bottom, we can find the strategic plan that all the different stakeholders have to make before start embarking in a design of a data platform. Stakeholder needs to be identified, use case needs to be identified, metrics, KPI, all the things needs to be extremely clear. And then moving ahead through the pyramid, we can see that we can add more value step by step. So we will start with reducing the TCO of our data platform, maybe because at the moment the organization is leveraging old-fashioned, data warehouse running on-prem that are unable to scale, and if they want to scale the data warehouse, they need to spend a lot of money. The cloud can help a lot in doing that. And there's a dedicated part of the book where we are sharing experience that we have in working with several kind of customers, and having a look on how to reduce the CTO and how the cloud can reduce the CTO and the TCO. And we are bringing even a lot of different nuance, a lot of different figures to promote that idea. Then we have the step that, for my personal opinion, is the most important one, especially when talking with a customer that are starting embracing the cloud. The cloud paradigm. So the ability to break dark silos, to democratize democratize access to the data, and to democratize analytics. We will see that in a minute. Then we need to, let's say, have the ability to make decision in context and faster. And this means to implement streaming analytics, to implement the ability to get extra information about the context. That could be, for example, GIS information, or it could be any other information that could give to the data users the ability to make a decision in a more reactive way, in a more complete way, because of the fact that you can basically collect a lot of different signals and you can process that even in real time. The other step is to move ahead from that and to start implementing machine learning. As Firat was saying before, once you have developed your foundation, once you have a full control of your data, once you have a full control of all the information that are the basics for your business, you can start leveraging machine learning algorithm to extract even more information, to extract even more, let's say, to implement even more sophisticated way to automatically extract information. And once you have done that, you can decide to even go further and start implementing new machine learning algorithm or new crafted solution to evenly, let's say, improve the way you are landing the data. And the last step, the pinnacle, let's say, of this journey is to treat data as a product. This is something that I personally had several discussions in the last month with several kind of customer, because this is a real mindset problem. A lot of different people are thinking that data cannot be treated as a real product. They see it as, let's say, as a something that is useful for their business, but is not like a real product of their business. Instead, people should start thinking about data as a real product, and they should start thinking about their data set, about their information, like a normal product, defining a roadmap, defining a real strategy on how to evolve it, with a real strategy about how to get feedback from the users in order to evolve it like a normal product within the company. So basically, these are all the steps that we are going to cover within the book. And I strongly encourage you, based on your, let's say, level of knowledge, or based on what you want to know more, you will find a lot of information on all these steps. So as I said before, one of the most important topic that we are treating within this book is the ability to break down silos. Why is it extremely important? Because as we wrote within the book, silos data is silent data. So if you have within the company a lot of different places where data are available that are not interconnected to each other and that maybe they are hidden to each other, it will be extremely difficult to get value from there. There are a lot of different ways to, let's say, try to remove silos within the company. The key is to find some sort of balance between centralization and decentralization. Centralization, that could be the first idea that came in mind, is to put one single place where you put all your data. That is extremely easy when you have to develop BI and develop other kind of things. But at the same time, it will be extremely challenging in terms of data quality. Because if you move the data far from the person who really knows the meaning behind the data quality could have some trouble. So you can end up with a central data repository, but that contain a lot of different issues. Decentralization is, of course, the opposite, and it could bring a lot of data quality, of course, because data will be very close to the people who really own the data. But at the same time, if you go with an extreme, let's say, this decentralization politic, you will have a reduced data discoverability, and at the end, you will have a lot of difficulties in having this kind of data set talking to each other. Thanks to the cloud, you can have some sort of mix and match of the two. From one side, as we have seen before, from one side, in terms of data governance, data quality, and data security, you can have something that is completely transversal to all the different steps of the data lifecycle. You can control it even from a central point of view if you want. So you can have a dedicated office that, like, for example, IT, that take care of the different rules to get access to the data. So people can get access to any kind of data set, if they have the right access to get if they have the right access to get access to the data. But at the same time, you can store the data whenever you want within the data platform. You can have data within the data warehouse. You can have data within the data lake. And thanks to, let's say, the power of the cloud that allow you to have some sort of a decentralization, some sort of division between computing and storage, you can basically bring all the different engines that you need close to the data that you wanna interact with, and enable user to search for the data, query the data, elaborate, transform the data, and basically get the most of it. Another important topic, another important element that the cloud paradigm enable is the ability to introduce and to create some sort of bridge within the company data and third-party supplier data. This will be made. The cloud paradigm will enable this kind of thing in a very, very easy way, because no matter what kind of technology you are using, data warehouse, data lake, lakehouse, etc., there are a lot of tools that allow you to create bridges between first-party data and third-party data. And this will allow users to increase the level of their analysis and even to implement a new way of business. We are seeing, for example, customers who are leveraging this kind of data to share data with third-party supplier, to share data with other company, and even to monetize the data that they have, and even to speed up, for example, some processes. For example, we have retailers who are sharing the status of their stocks with other with some suppliers directly from their data platform, because this enable them to speed up, let's say, their internal processes. So the important point is to have something that allow you to have a shared data governance tool throughout all the different steps, and a strong security measures to protect the data and to protect the access to that data. The other topic that we are covering is the streaming part. As we said before, is extremely important to have a platform that enable any kind of processing, batch processing, streaming processing, in order to enable real-time analysis of the data. And then I let Firat to continue on this.
Right. So the problem that you usually face is you have so many systems within the environment, and the screen on, yes. So you have so many systems, right? And these so many systems effectively creates these silos as well. Usually you find one solution, and that solution tries to solve one single problem. But organizations don't, just focus on the silos. It is, you save the day by really effectively solving this individual, problems, right? How can you bring that together, have this holistic view, which allows you to become more efficient and also more effective as well, right? We discuss about the data products. We discuss about the pyramid that allows you to create these data products. This is where I would say it, and then before I jump into the streaming as well and carry on what Marco has been saying, would you buy from an e-commerce site without looking the description of a product, without looking into its review, without understanding what it is doing, without looking into what type of support that it has, and would you also go and within your house fill your house with lot of different little things, right? Which unfortunately I do sometimes, right? So that each of them solves individual problems. How about if you have a solution that gives you a broader approach, right? Whereby you break the silos that, Marco mentioned as well. Streaming is one of them. Usually what happens is that you have solutions that, solves the batch, and also for very specific, fee problems, you focus on the real-time aspect of it as well. The times that we live in, our customers, our consumers, the people that we are, communicating with are demanding more. They are looking to, right, get the timeness into it as well. So one of the things that we cover in the book is that there are different streaming architectures that are available, and there are different solutions available as well. How do you go and choose? How do you go and make these decisions? It is not, you cannot change the environment that you have straight away, right? So, in an ideal world, you create this, the holistic environment, the idealistic architecture that really goes and applies. We give you the North Star, which is what you are really looking for, right? In the book as well. But also we give you the pragmatic approach on, how to deal with if you are ingesting the data in, a streaming way. Or when it is required, you have to do it in micro batch, right? So it might not be feasible due to the processes and the way that the data arrives to do, full streaming as well. And how you can support this whilst you are managing this architecture, and how you can architect this in an automated system is, some of the things that we cover. Let's step back. The idea for this book is to give you the ideas and show you ways of architecting things, right? They're always trade-offs. And then we allude into some of this as well. Next slide, please, Marco. Right. So And it is important to understand that, you know, the value in streaming, if you can break this, if you can, you know, if you give this as an option in most of the organizations, would you want to do everything real time, right? While it's also managing and carrying out all the processes that you have, your reporting continues, right? You know, your core data warehousing tasks continues. You are still serving your operational systems. Would you want to do everything in real time? Would you want to get, you know, everything in real time as well? For example, one of the things that, you know, always got me when the mobile phones or the cell phones first came out is when you're traveling, right? The roaming was coming a few, you know, a day later. You wouldn't know how much you would have spent when you're roaming around. Imagine these days, in this age, that is still the case. Whilst you are traveling somewhere, you get the amount of data that you spend whilst you are roaming the next morning, right? You would effectively break the bank if you know, if that was happening that way, right? Nowadays, you can put lots of, you know, rail guards around it. You can say, I'm not going to spend more than $20 every day or $20 during the, you know, build frame and such. You are doing these window functions effectively in real time, in scale. And that's where the value of streaming comes. Once you start dealing and providing solutions that really affects your users' real lives, right? Then you are really winning. But this is also hard. You really need to deal with so many things around that. You need to bring the data in real time. You need to also have the, you know, the analytics around it as well. Okay. And the architectures that we are dealing with can be really modular. You can bring the data, and there's some solutions, there's some data warehouses that allows real-time, you know, streaming into that, right? And there's some that doesn't allow you to do that, and they really force you to create these micro batches around that. Would you want to, you know, it's a trade-off. Which one would you choose, right? What is your business requirements? Also with ML, and that's what one of the focuses that we have, right? So do you want to do the inference in real time based on the data that you have real time as well? Or would you want to do inference in batch? I'm not talking about training, right? You know, I think what the users are asking from us and requiring us to do, in really regardless on whatever environment that we are operating in, is to do it as real time as possible. You know? And there are also other use cases that, you know, the real-time dashboards that the traditional enterprise still uses. I remember 20 years ago that the dashboards in the places would be coming a day later. Now try selling that to a, you know, exec and, you know, CFO, that you cannot show that real-time, you know, the visualization of what the business is doing effectively. And then you can also do, you know, streaming analytics, right? As the data comes in, you are really doing the calculation. This really covers what I mentioned around this rolling, you know, windows as well, right? Window aggregations. In the past, this was really difficult. You had to manage everything yourself. Nowadays, you have solutions that you can just call a window aggregation function. It allows you to do it. Whether you are doing this through a, you know, programming environment, or whether you are doing this in a, you know, data warehouse environment. And, you know, without having the human, you know, intervention, how can you do the continuous intelligence as well, right? How you can automate this, because that increases your productivity and that reduces your cost. And then, as I said, it is a quite modular architecture around that. Next slide, please, Marco. And how can you architect an ML platform, right? So it's always a trade-off, and the trade-off have two extremes. would you just need to purchase a solution, which is effectively calling an API, right? Pre-built ML, solution, or would it better off for you that you build your custom ML model and you deploy your ML model? We look at the steps in how you are managing this. Again, it is a trade-off. You can see this as a multi-objective optimization problem as well, right? How much effort that you are putting into it, how much data that you are going to be using, and how you are going to deploy it in the best way. ML these days is three, I call it a triangle, right? It is data, compute, and algorithm. You have the three parts of it. How you can best juggle that around. And by showing you the stages that you go through, right, in the book, then you can make these decisions. And automating the training process by looking into the tools and products helps you going from that just simple approach that you are just buying and you are calling to the end of going and deploying. And you don't need a, wall-to-wall PhDs in ML to be able to do that, right? Some of the things that we show you, you can do it in a fairly modular way. There are tools that allows you to take it and scale. The value, particularly with the days that we live in, particularly with the Gen AI, mostly resides with inference these days. That's where you are demonstrating the value. Therefore, it is really important to understand the behavior of the model that you are deploying as well. It is always an iterative process, right? You might have trained a model and you might have deployed as an endpoint, but you need to continuously monitor as you are inferring as well. Having the reinforcement learning, allowing everything is challenging. Okay. So the key, as I mentioned, you deploy. You can use the batch prediction to score large amounts of data. We also talk around how you deal with online prediction, right? Is near real time. And you can also, today deploy the microservices as a serving environment, really to manage some of the real-time ML deployment as well. Again, it is about the value that you are providing. It is fairly expensive, particularly if you are doing with the LLMs and Gen AI to do some of the inference as well. As I said, there's lots of work happens in the inference side compared to the more traditional ML approaches. Also, the platform that you've built should really follow the MLOps practices, which we cover in the book as well. Okay, things like you need to allow for A/B testing, right? And then slowly introduce the new models, for example, in production to see how it is performing, right? Because that's when you are really throwing at some real data. Also, you need to look into the resource usage, as I mentioned, right? That it can not only keep up, but also that you can manage the cost as well. And also how you can, use the data warehouse to do that. Unfortunately, at this day and age, there are cloud data warehouses that also still not allow you to do ML, right? It is fascinating. That still becomes a silo, because what you really need to have is, as we said at the very beginning, the times that we live in now, right? The biggest consumer of the data is becoming the ML. Yes, ML needs the data, but now data needs ML as well. Okay, and you need to be able to build this end-to-end environment. And yes, that many organizations really requires you to be on multi-cloud, and would your solution support multi-cloud? Would you be able to run them on multi-cloud? Maybe your operational data is on one and your analytical data is on the other. How can you bring them together, right? Augment your analytical data with your operational data and run your ML model. Because if you provide broader data that you can enrich your operational analytical data, which might be in different clouds, right? You'll be able to give better features to your ML algorithms. But how you can manage the network, how you can manage the hybrid training and such is really some of the topics that we covered as well. And Marco, next one. And happy to answer questions, right? Fire away. But I'll let Marco to take you through the little offer that we can give you.
Thank you so much, Firat. So basically, we touch some sort of topics that you will find in the book. Of course, there are a lot more. As we said, there are discussions about how to design your data platform leveraging data lake, data warehouse, data lakehouse paradigm. There's a chapter dedicated to streaming, another one dedicated to hybrid environment, a couple of chapters fully dedicated on how to implement machine learning, how to leverage the generative AI paradigm that is coming and is more or less the standard de facto nowadays, and even some examples from the field. We want to share with you this promo code that allow you to get access to the O'Reilly learning platform for 30 days. So you will have access not only to our book, but to the entire O'Reilly platform. So I think it's a very, very interesting giveaway. It will be available until, if I remember well, you can activate it until the end of the year. So you will have time. If you want to wait for our, let's say, for the last version of the book, you need to wait the end of October when it will be published. At the moment, you can find a version that is not the final, but is very close to the final. And basically, you can find everything we discuss today and even more. Here you have the QR code. It will bring you directly to the O'Reilly Learning platform. Otherwise, you search for O'Reilly Learning Platform, you create your new account, and you can use this promo code to get access for 30 days instead of 7 days, I think is the standard trial period. Now you have 30 days, so you can enjoy the entire O'Reilly bookstore. And thank you so much, of course, for your attention during the presentation. And open to get your question if you have.
So that's it. Thank you. And thank you for the giveaway. Like normally it's only 10 days and it expires so fast.
But Marco, correct me, with this, you get to at the moment, you get to the, non-edited version, right? So, and the edited version is coming soon. It's very close, actually.
Okay, sorry, I had a problem handling the Zoom setting. Yes, frankly speaking, the version that is available right now is very close to the final one because the editor just updated, I think 2 days ago. So it's very, very close to the final one. There are some new ones that need to be crafted, but at the moment, if you go and have a look at the content, you will find let's say the very close final book.
Nice. And do we still have the third co-author in the forum? Luck was here with us when it started. Yes. Yes, we do. So, folks, let's kick off with some questions. Now it's a fun part.
Daniel, I believe you may want to check comments because some people post questions in the chat.
Okay, John, you want to handle chat? And then before it starts, fortunately, the book is.
Yeah, sure. Well, there was a question about what's a data product, and Lack already put put a link to his Medium article on that, so that hopefully helps clear that up. I think it should. So there's another question here. I guess do you want me to just read them from Harry?
Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of these concepts overlap with the concepts of data mesh and data fabric. Do you have any comments on this? And is that covered in the book?
Yes, definitely. We cover all the concept, especially on the data mesh part, and how basically to fit all the different concepts within the architecture. As I said before, we cover data lake, data warehouse, data lakehouse, and basically you can understand how to leverage this kind of architecture in order to implement your data mesh strategy within the company. This is definitely something that we cover within the book.
Okay, cool. And what about the differences between the different technical implementations of streaming? So for example, in the question here is mentioning like Kafka, Flink, Pulsar, Kinesis. Is there any discussion in the book on advantages and disadvantages of those, or what features to look for when you're looking at the technical implementation of your streaming?
I have to say that we discuss streaming patterns that are basically agnostic to the different kind of vendors that you can leverage. We mentioned different kind of solution that you can leverage in order to implement your streaming strategy. But considering the fact that it is vendor agnostic, we are not, let's say, pushing from one solution or the another. We are mentioning a lot of different solutions that you can leverage in the cloud that are open source or let's say promoted by some vendors, but we are not saying please use this one because XYZ or leverage that one because XYZ. We are just give some kind of architectural suggestion, and then users could decide which kind of final solution to pick up.
Yeah, and I mean, exactly. The key thing is that all of the vendor technologies change so much that we wanted the book to remain valid. So the patterns are valid. Whether any specific vendor will implement some feature that allows you, like we can say, hey, you cannot do this pattern with this technology today, and then 3 months later, that feature will come into the product. So when you're doing vendor selection, you should definitely do a POC based on your current requirements and what you currently have. There's no way that a static book is going to basically allow you to do that. The patterns themselves, right? Say if this is a use case that you have, here's how you implement the pattern. That allows you to then craft a POC appropriately. We talk about that in the last section of the book on how to basically create an RFP and ask for the things that you care about. So how to translate those patterns into a request for proposals, a request for a quote, and that's how you end up choosing, but we don't go into the choices themselves.
Okay, thanks, Slack. We also have some questions from Diana. In pyramid layer 1 mentions setting up metrics. Do you mean business metrics, or those are platform performance?
We are meaning more business metrics and KPIs to be leveraged, because the first level of the pyramid is basically to define where you want to go with your data platform and what are the use cases that you want to implement on top of your data platform. So we are talking more about business metrics, even if, of course, some technology metrics need to be taken into consideration, but the most important thing is to define the business metrics.
Okay, sounds good. People, you can raise your hands in the Zoom, or also ask in the Zoom. I'm just going to keep going through these if there's nothing else being said at the moment. A question here. What was the next one? A middle point between centralization and decentralization. What could that be? Is there an integration layer involved?
Firat, do you want to go for it? Otherwise, it seems that I'm going to take all the questions by myself.
It is a trade-off, right? So whether you decentralize or centralize, it depends what your business requirements are. But effectively, with the data product approach, what you are looking to do is you get the more data-oriented view of the world rather than your organizational, structured point of the way, right? So would it matter if you are purchasing, again, a product? Let's say if you are purchasing a remote control that I have in this hotel room, right? Does it matter who produces the butter in it, who produces the plastic outside, who designs that? You are just effectively looking for the product itself as a end user. Again, imagine a TV manufacturing organization, right? So this is a product within the TV manufacturing, the the remote control that you have as well. Does it matter, whether the engineers that are working on manufacturing this or designing this, right, are in the same team that also manufactures the TV? Well, if they're good at manufacturing, or if they're good at designing, they should work together in different parts of it. But data is very similar, right? So you might have these centralized teams and centralized data sources, but how can you get the teams that needs that accesses to that, right? So for example, you might have sales data and sales teams looking after the sales data, and you might have the consumer teams that are looking after the consumers and accounts and such. If they're living as two silos and two systems, one from operational side and one from the analytical side, for example, and if you have the teams that are, developing a centralized engineering team, data engineering team looking after that, how would you create this effective ways of approaching all of that? So for me, centralization, decentralization comes from how you keep your data sources across, right? And also it comes from how you build your teams around it as well. Usually we find that organizations focuses in the first instance on looking into decentralization, centralization in respect to the systems, right? Well, and what happens if you solve the system side of things and if you don't solve the organizational side of things?
Yeah, and another perspective to think about this, I think, is that you said, what is the middle point? And I think, if you were to say it very concisely, the middle point is standardization, right? Between centralization and decentralization, what's the middle one is to choose what you want to standardize. Lots of times we choose to standardize the APIs that are very organizational, as Firat said. But instead, if you choose to standardize the data product as the API, as here's a use case of the data, and in order for this data to be used in this particular way, here's all the pieces of information that has to be collected across the company in order to basically provide a single view of the data. That becomes the middle point, right? So in other words, you're not centralizing the data, you're basically standardizing the various use cases and how that, so it's a lot of ad hoc combinations of data, but that basically become a product view of the data. That's basically what we're talking about.
Yeah, makes sense. Diana, you also had a question about data modeling. Do you want to ask that question on the microphone?
Yeah, I can. That's actually broken into parts. So for the whole presentation, you guys didn't, or I missed that, but it sounds like the modeling essentially haven't been mentioned. So what's the role and place, if there are any, for data modeling, specifically for the big one like domain-wide or even close to enterprise-wide data model within all the data platform architecture we've been talking for the current days of data platform?
So basically, we didn't touch the data modeling topic just because it's extremely broad. So the last book that I read about data modeling was a book about Data Vault 2.0, and basically it was like 400 pages, I think. So we decided to avoid treating this topic within the book as a specific topic, just because of the space required to treat it in a complete and a cohesive point of view. So we are more focusing on the architecture and on the pattern that you can leverage in order to develop the data, knowing that in any case, data modeling is something that you should invest on when designing your data architecture, and when you're designing the data that you're going to put within your data platform. But we are not going to treat that mainly because of a space, let's say, problem.
Or see, in some ways, it's like a level. You have the architecture and have the implementation. So we talk about ML systems. We don't talk about TensorFlow. We talk about data warehouse. We don't talk about SQL. It's the same thing. We don't talk, we talk about where to put the data. We don't talk about the data model. We don't talk about the schema. All of those are implementation decisions once you've chosen the architecture.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Sorry, and I can see another question that is very similar to this, that is related to data lineage. So yes, we mentioned data lineage, and we treated at a high level within the book when we discuss different ways to, let's say, store the data, and different ways to get access to the data to recover the path that has been needed to create some dashboard or to generate some queries. But we are not, let's say, dealing with the details of this.
Okay, there's another interesting question here. Do you have an opinion on how long before there'll be an LLM available to conversationally orchestrate the full life cycle?
This is definitely a question for Firat. It's his preferred topic. He loves that.
Well, it depends how you are, building the end-to-end pipeline, right? So if you are doing with SQL, and if you are building everything as an ELT, yes, you should be able to do it now. But there are also realities around LLMs that, it is going to hallucinate from time to time. You need to see that it is statistical, right? There are lots of railguards put around in the solutions. And there are different ways of dealing with that, which is beyond the scope here. But one of the things that we need to consider is how that will happen. It will eventually happen, right? But I don't think that anyone is there yet. It will take some more time to learn how they're behaving around this as well. And you can just I know that Daniel was asking around some of this as well, but at next, from the Google point of view, you can go and look into some of the things around that.
Since you mentioned my name, so I don't think it's going to be one LLM. It's going to be a set of agents, like forming a team. They're going to be one going to be assigned for quality assurance. So it's probably something along that, like a company of agents.
I think we'll see solutions that will do end-to-end all of it. Yeah, that's where I'll stop.
Okay, any other questions? Just feel free to speak up. I think we covered most of the chat. Are there any real-world examples or case studies of successful data architecture implementations? I guess the question means, are there any mentioned in the book? Yeah.
Yeah, there's dedicated chapters, the last one, that basically cover all the things that you learned before in a real-world case scenario. Of course, we didn't share the name of the customer. We put some, let's say, we changed it a little bit, but this is a real it's a real use case of a customer who basically implemented from scratch a cloud-native data architecture, and basically transform its old-fashioned data architecture develop on-prem using legacy solution and move into the cloud step by step. And we highlighted all the different steps that an organization like that has to put in place in order to build, and what are the results that basically they got. So the response is yes.
And also a lot of the reference architectures that we say, here's the reference architecture for a lake house on AWS. built around, say, Snowflake. That, you just go to the Snowflake, website, and you will basically find a bunch of people who basically implemented that reference architecture. So none of these things are, we're just taking things that have been done with the different sets of products when we talk about a reference architecture, whether it is building a connector with Fivetran. Well, we don't say, here's a company that uses Fivetran. There's like tons of them that do, right? So you just go pick one of them.
Since you mentioned Fivetran, can you touch on topic of ELT tools, reverse ETL tools, and CDPs? CDP, like especially people who are not in the computer science, they think it's the same data platform, customer data platforms. Talk about that.
It's super fun because in the last 2 weeks, I think I talk about CDP more than 50 times, even within my company, because it seems to be like a super hot topic right now. So well, basically, CDP is, we can think about a CDP as a subsystem, a subset of a data platform. The data platform is the platform that contains all the data of a company, and the CDP is more focused on data and solution tailored to have a 360 degrees view of the customers of a specific company. Let's think about, for example, a retailer. They want to have understanding about how the customer interact with their e-commerce website, how they interact with the mobile application, how they get information about a specific product, how the rating of a specific product are getting are putting within the system. So the customer data platform is basically a subset of the data platform fully focused on the customer, in collecting the information of the customer, and to aiming to define some sort of story of the customer that can be leveraged by automating systems like marketing or manual systems like marketing departments to basically increase the value that a company can bring to the customer, and basically to increase the sales of the customer, the sales of that specific organization. There are a lot of different tools that can be leveraged, native tools that are out of the box, developed by all different cloud vendors. But what we are seeing so far is that a lot of companies are implementing on top of the data platform some vertical solution fully focused on handling the end-to-end story of a customer on top of the data warehouse, data lake, on top of everything we have seen before. So as Lak was saying before, there are different kind of layers. So this the CDP sit at the, let's say, at the top layer of all this kind of layer, because at the end, behind the scene, is leveraging all the tools that we have seen so far from an architectural point of view, pattern point of view, and basically it's basically an end-to-end solution that allow different companies, especially on the marketing departments, to get a better understanding, an holistic understanding of their customers.
And then it really, as Marco says, it is really very tool centric, right? Because it is at the core of it, it is about bringing the customer data and the customer interaction data together, and then creating this, customer data platform. So it's effectively breaking the silos that you have from different systems coming together, and which is exactly what we discuss and the core point of the of the book as well. But on the ELT ETL side, so and then the reverse ETL side, when you look at it, reverse ETL is just a marketing term, right? So most of the ETL tools, all the ETL tools, have done reverse ETL. It's the new solutions that came into the market that only used to ingest into the the data warehouse or data lakes. They didn't have the capability to take the data out and then put it into the second or the third party system, right? That is reverse ETL effectively in a nutshell. We cover how the ETL works, right? And we cover how the ELT and reverse ETL works as well. But I just wanted to make the point that
and zero ETL, right? Again, we mentioned what
yes,
these things are, but try to avoid getting pulled into a lot of the buzzwords.
exactly that, right? So it is ETL at the end of the day, and ETL covered all of this.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing. So now choosing CDP product is often above our pay grade. Do you have any tips for the executives choosing them to not violate any of the anti-patterns you mentioned in the book? So
I mean, it all comes down to do you buy, do you build, right? And there is things that you can go buy something like a segment, but will it meet your needs? Will it be your current cost structure? It's the normal procurement process that you go through. And then you have the option of basically building, but then you have to make sure you have an engineering team and how much is it going to cost you. And then you have the questions around matching users, what fraction of your traffic today is anonymous? Like to what extent will the existing tools match those users? What do you have to build in order to match them yourselves? There's no substitute for doing a POC with your actual traffic and your actual set of users.
And you covered that in the book. Thank you. Like you wrote 3 chapters since we last time spoke, like 2 weeks. That's amazing. Speed of light.
No. Yeah, they just came on the platform.
we didn't write all this chapter into
It took me as much time to come up with the questions for you as you to write 3 chapters. That's cool. Anything else you see in the chat, John?
No, just some comments on that. I think I covered most of them. If anyone else has something to elaborate on or something I didn't get, please speak up or put it in there again.
The data governance is an important topic you're covering. So I heard somewhere on the internet somebody's saying that modern data stack, I know, Joe Reese, a modern data stack is going to become boring data stack because it's going to be all about governance and modeling. So, and you cover that in the book as well. Maybe talk about the importance of data governance.
There's another question there about, can you talk about possible solutions for government agencies? They have big data silo problems.
Similar question.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is not just for government agencies, but is basically the same problem that I'm currently seeing in all industry where there are a high level of regulation to comply with. Let's say financial services, for example, or telcos. These are super important topic. We in the book covered different kinds of architectures and different kind of pattern that you can leverage in order to enable even this kind of industries to get the most from this kind of architecture. One pattern that I have to say is extremely important in that sense is the hybrid one, where you could have some sort of separation of the data. You can have some sort of separation of the data, and the data that you are not allowed to externalize or put it in a public cloud, you can maintain it in your on-prem environment, and then you can leverage the public cloud for all the other kind of data. Another thing that you can do with different kind of cloud vendors is that you can leverage a specific region offered by your cloud vendor in order to get access to the cloud. For example, maybe you can have your data warehouse that is running in public cloud, but the data set are limited in a specific region. I'm coming from Milan, I'm coming from Italy. We have all the cloud vendors have a public data center here in Italy. So Microsoft, AWS, and Google Cloud have a data center in Milan, basically. So what we are seeing is that financial services are asking us to limit the scope of data just on that kind of region. And this is definitely something that you can do with the cloud. And the same things is valid for government. So this kind of pattern allow you to get the most from the cloud technology, but in a limited, let's say, scope. And of course, enabling the hybrid connectivity within this kind of region, for example, and the on-prem data center of that company, you can even, let's say, do even better things.
Any other questions? So we still have like it's very late where you are, but we still have some time. I don't know how much longer you can stay. Are there questions?
No problem. I love to stay here and talk with people. So if you have question, we are here.
There is one in the chat from Hugo. Could you please share some useful practical resources for data strategic beginners like me in order to complement and understand better all the book concept? Thanks.
Firat, do you want to take it?
I think that within the book we try to cover the concepts and explain them, right? So I think we give sufficient information at the strategic level and particularly at the architecture level. But if you are looking to do the implementation layer, then you'll be looking for, how am I going to build, let's say, a data vault modeling in this way, right? Then you would need to go and look for the, other resources, because it is beyond the scope of the book to give you how you are going to implement things. But the book is talking around what are the patterns that you should follow on doing certain things and designing the environment. That's the level that we work with, right? That doesn't mean that this is still useful for the data engineers, data scientists, and data analysts, as well as it is aimed for the data architects and the decision makers as well. So it is at this strategic level that you are looking for, and then we cover and explain those concepts.
And on top of that, I don't know if you can hear me. Yes. And on top of that, we put within the book external references like blog posts or even references to other books. So if there are some topics that we think are super relevant to the book, you can find direct access to the relevant content that allow you to deep dive and get even more information about a specific topic. Just to give you an example, because we mentioned it before, we talk about data mesh. We are extensively talking about data mesh within the book, but we put even another reference, an external reference for people who want to really deep dive into the topic and want to become, let's say, extremely proficient on that topic.
Okay, any other questions? Oops, we can't hear you now.
It's not a question because I kept coming. So when we met, I was complaining, how do we fix that? How do we fix this? And then you were saying it's in the book. So you called the multi-pattern. So I'm just putting the reference for the folks that are curious where they can learn about in which chapter of the book. So thank you for covering those. Anything else? So Firat, we still have a couple minutes. You're on the road, like you see so many clients. So what did we forget to ask you? What do you wish we asked you? And we didn't, so maybe.
That's the hardest question that you ask now, Daniel. So, so one of the things that and this is from the very high level, right? So one of the things that we solved within the the previous era, big data era, is that prior to that we have data warehouses. Data warehouses work very well. Data warehouses really helped us to look into what was happening in the past, right? And we discussed this a little bit as well. It was giving answers. It was giving the answers that we needed. That was happening in the past, right? It was very good on doing the reporting and historical side of things. Then as we start collecting more data, they became the bottlenecks. They became the bottlenecks in terms of how much data that you are storing. You spend a lot of time in dealing with that. And they also became bottlenecks because they force you to down through one path, right? You have to write SQL, or you have to move the workloads outside of the data warehouse because of the resource constraints and do it in the ETL. The big data era came, the compute and storage really became much cheaper. So we started, really storing a lot more data, right? And also introducing the different ways of accessing the data as well. It is not just the ETL and the SQL, but it is also new frameworks and application frameworks that allowed us to do some of the data processing outside of that. And AI ML also, as I alluded into at the very beginning, right, started becoming more mainstream. It's not just the advanced analytics and BI and and bringing operational data and analytical data together, but we broadened that up. What we didn't solve with this is we created this data mountain effectively. We had a lot of different personas, data engineers. We have seen the birth of the data scientists. In fact, it was one of the articles at HBR as well, and the Economist picked this up as well, right? So we have seen the birth of these data engineers became very powerful as well in this, in addition to the data analysts and others. But they are all focusing into different ways of doing things. Now, what we are seeing, where we are moving into, is an architecture whereby everything is collapsing into one environment. The boundaries between the personas are, really getting blurred as well. We are seeing the data analysts, getting into and understanding what the data engineers are doing, and data engineers are doing what the data scientists and others as well, right? We are moving into this unified environment now. That is exactly, and coincidentally, we started writing this book actually much longer before the likes of the Bards and ChatGPTs came, right? So most of the book was there, and your question was interesting earlier as well, right? So the most of the chapters were there. We just updated them a little bit. The concepts are still there for you to build this end-to-end architecture. For us, it hasn't changed. For me, it hasn't changed. The customer problems and everyone's problems are still similar. How I can bring it together. But what has changed is the pressure on the organizations to demonstrate value using AI and ML. And, the data's biggest consumer is becoming more the AI ML, algorithms and applications, right? Funny enough, that's exactly what we were covering and what we were going into the book, and that's really, and it was fascinating to see this, right? So I don't want to call this out, but maybe we see in the future in a sense a little bit as well where it was going to, and then that's where we focus into as well. When you look at it, there aren't much material around that covers data and AI together from the architecture point of view. There are lots of literature out there that focuses on the data. There are lots of literature out there that focus on the AI. They focus on the architecture side. They focus on the implementation side. But there isn't one that does in an overarching way. That's when you start doing the, because data governance will become an, more important issue, because it is not just the data governance in the analytics, but it's also data governance on the ML side as well, right? Because what you are feeding into the ML models and what you are getting. And all of this is really what we are trying to cover. So maybe that overarching question is, we need to take a step back and look into this environment, these data mountains that we are creating, right? We are going to tackle them, I think, a bit differently with different personas taking different roles and putting different hats. And the good thing is that we happen to have written this book, you know, just in time to do this. And that's why I'm really excited about that.
Me too.
I don't know whether, you know, let's say
It's perfect answer and perfect timing for me. Like it's like LLMs and this generative AI came like COVID. It was scary at first, but we wouldn't be able to have this chat nor me to work from home if it wasn't for COVID. And now finally companies are moving out of the fear, but they are moving because they adopted cloud, but then it stayed the status quo. Suddenly they're going to start listening to you. So thank you. That's why I said it was my Bible. So.
And then Luck wrote there as well. It is now available to pre-order from Amazon and Target and many other places, right? So if you just search for it, you'll be able to get that.
Thank you. Did I miss any other questions while we were chatting? Luck, you also left Google a while back. Like, how's life outside? I rarely get to see you, only read your blogs.
Let's talk offline.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Marco recovered after the surgery, okay?
Yeah, everything is okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. So I'm happy. I'm really honored you joined us and you shared this, and I cannot wait for the book.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that was
been a
fantastic
pleasure.
to have all of you together and being able to get all those insights and answers. That was excellent.
Mm-hmm. And can't wait
So-
for the chapter 12 to be finished so we can cut and paste some code.
And of
No
course,
rush.
feel free to reach out on LinkedIn if you want. I have already some people who just ask us access to our profile, so feel free to do it. We are more than happy to get back to you.
Excellent.
Thank
And
you.
didn't you say, Marco, that the entire book is now on the O'Reilly site?
It seems yes. The
12 chapters.
all the different chapters are there, and the only thing that is missing right now is the very, very tiny changes that we are doing during these days, but it's very
And the
close
index.
to the final version, and the index, of course,
And the
but all the content is there.
So 12 chapters.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
More or less 320 pages.
Just amazing. I spent my weekend reading it, so thank you. Anything else? When can we have you back? Now, we covered it cloud agnostic because you're from Google. I want to hear more how Google is doing this. Firat, are you in for it? Marco?
I let Firat, if you want, go through that.
Yeah, we can discuss this offline and see what
Perfect.
we can do.
And then if anybody's in group can cover Azure or knows people who can, we can dive deep there as well. Databricks also, that was a blind spot for me. So I'd like to get down deeper into that. Amazon, of course. So they're always welcome. Any other ideas, John?
No, sounds like a pretty long list of things to come back to. But yeah.
It's a great book, inspiring.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm gonna have to get moving here, but no, that was fantastic.
Thanks
Thank you again for your time, folks.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys.
Ciao. Bye. Good night.
Ciao.